Okay, good morning, people. Let's get everything set up. Everything's looking good. I am pretty tired, but we're here. Sorry I had to postpone. Having fun on my little workation and just didn't have time to to do this on Thursday and might not even have had reliable internet to go for a whole hour. The internet itself wasn't bad, but it was in and out and kind of spotty, so I got my coffee. I don't see anyone waiting, and no one is here yet, so I can just start, I guess. I just need to get to, whoops, my studio real fast. 1 second. Because, of course, I want to talk about this week's shows, if there's anything important to talk about. Just go through them a little bit, and then talk a little bit about my September um, movie that I'm going to watch for the first time, which, according to the polls on Twitter, Patreon, and YouTube, looks like the original Mission Impossible is going to win this month. So on September 1st, that'll be on Patreon, uncut. And then around September 15th, the YouTube version will go up because I'm trying for August 15th to post The Mummy on YouTube. That's been on Patreon since August 1st, the full cut. So looks like it's going to be Mission Impossible. I was really hoping that the original Tomb Raider was going to win, but it didn't. Maybe for October. Unless I throw in a Halloween type movie for the month of October, and I'm sure that'll probably win, but who knows? Okay, so this week, as everyone knows, I was not home, but luckily I was able to record all of my reactions before I left, so nothing was delayed. And this week we had Community Season 2, Episode 16. That was intermediate documentary filmmaking. We had Atlanta Season 3, Episode 5, Cancer Attack. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Season 1, Episode 2, The Tagger. And then yesterday we had What We Do in the Shadows, Season 5, Episode 6, Urgent Care. 4 amazing episodes to 4 great shows. And I could talk a little bit about it until some people show up. But I guess we'll start with Community. This episode was really good to me because I don't remember them mentioning Abed and his filmmaking at all, really, since the episode in season 1 where he makes that short film with Jeff and Britta, and we talk about this all the time. Basically, they're his parents because he doesn't have a super great relationship with his father, and by the end, his father, everyone knows what happens, and that was a really good episode. And I just thought we would see more of that. So I'm glad we got that in this episode. In retrospect, though, as much as I love these episodes, it means less Abed because if he's the one behind his camera, we're not really seeing him in the episode, and I just prefer to have him in the episodes. So, but all in all, it was a really good episode. It was the one where Pierce was pretending that he was dying because he was mad at everyone for ignoring him. Which is actually, to me, I mean, I wouldn't say it was 100% true because the way he's been acting in a season and a half to actually still have friends is a testament to like their willingness to work with him and put up with him. And in real life, everyone has a friend where you love hanging out with them, you know, 50% of the time, 75% of the time, but you don't like hanging out with them all the time. And there are certain things you just don't invite them to. Like that just happens in real life. And there are certain things you don't want to invite Pierce to. I mean, the whole point of the episode was for him to basically guilt everyone into liking him, in my opinion, except for Annie. That was the only real gift that I picked up on. Because the one thing I do notice, even though in the episode with the bee costumes, where he gave Annie money, but he did want something in return. I still felt genuinely that he really did want, after sitting a couple of weeks and thinking about it. Now I do think that he legitimately wanted to help her, um, and what he really wanted in return was really something minor. It wasn't like something super major that he wanted Annie to do for him. All he wanted was more lines in a stupid play. Like, I mean, technically he did want something in return, but to pay her rent just for that, I mean, that's not that bad. So I did feel like he does genuinely really like Annie, and I picked up that he gave her the tiara because legitimately she was his favorite, and I'm surprised I did because I don't pick up on much. He gave Shirley the CD that supposedly had the crew talking shit behind their back, and once he gave her that, I knew for a fact no one talks crap behind Shirley's back. No one usually talks crap about Shirley, even to her face, unless she gets like religious preachy with them. Then they'll do like a zinger or something, um, you know. But to her face, they don't ever really. I don't remember them ever really talking behind anyone else's back, like where they would really say something hurtful. So I kind of knew that was BS, and there was nothing on the CD. But I really did love that when Britta did play it, it was them defending her to Pierce, who obviously was being a piece of crap, trying, to get people to say bad things about Shirley. So I was very happy about that. Giving Britta the check, that one, I don't know if selfish is something I would call Britta. For me watching this series, and maybe I just don't remember or I haven't picked up on little things, but I don't really remember there being a time where she's been selfish. I mean, they're writing her now to be like boring and just like kind not annoying in a bad way, but just doing little things to kind of gently annoy the team and the crew. But I don't know. I don't feel like I remember her putting herself above other people in a major way over the past season and a half. So the gift to give her the money and then to say, oh, or you could just take it yourself, that one I kind of didn't get. So um, since no one's here now, if you're watching this later, let me know what I missed where it would make sense for Pierce to give her the check to guilt her into spending it on her own, because I don't remember Britta being selfish. This is good coffee. Who else is there? There is Troy. So Troy's was just ridiculously funny. Um, but again, this one makes me feel like Pierce likes Troy. And I think he kind of does, even though he does say some insensitive things. I think deep down, he wants to take him under his wing. I think more for him to feel important. But I'm assuming it's common knowledge to everyone that Troy loves LeVar Burton. And I feel like it's only knowledge to Abed that Troy does not want to meet LeVar Burton. All he wants is a picture of LeVar Burton signed, or a million pictures of LeVar Burton signed. So I genuinely believe that Abed is the only one who would know that information, because again, I don't remember Troy ever stating this in any of the episodes prior. So for Pierce to know that Troy likes LeVar Burton, I think is legitimate. That is why I feel like Pierce got LeVar Burton there genuinely because he likes Troy. I just don't think that Pierce knew that Troy never wanted to meet LeVar Burton. So out of the whole crew, I feel like the only two people that Pierce genuinely like is Troy, um, Annie, and I think he does like Abed. I don't think he would have let him, help him. For someone who has that much money, he could have clearly just gone and paid someone to make a higher quality, movie or documentary. Um, but he asked Abed to do it because I feel like he knows Abed loves um, creating and he loves making movies, and he thought it would be nice to let him do it. And he also didn't give Abed one of those items. So I feel like letting Abed shoot the movie was kind of his parting gift to him. So it seems like to me that Pierce mainly cares about the younger people because maybe, and I'm making this up, totally on my own, maybe he doesn't want the younger generation to end up like him, you know, just a mindset from 50 years ago and not being able to change, or having it be really hard for him to change and get better. Maybe. I don't know. That's what I pretty much took from that. So it was great. It was a really funny episode. The ending with Jeff and his dad. Oh, I forgot to mention Jeff. Obviously, I kind of knew, I thought in the back of my head there was no way he would be able to find Jeff's dad. And obviously he didn't find Jeff's dad, and it was something just to irritate Jeff. So I feel like he doesn't like Jeff because it's just a rivalry for him. Pierce just wants to be the funniest. He wants to be the most liked, and everyone respects and loves Jeff. So that hurts Pierce, and that was his way of hurting Jeff back until Jeff beat the crap out of him. So that was pretty neat. But again, I really do like the continuity of Pierce breaking his legs, going through addiction to drugs, and then using all of that plus the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons episode all to lead to this episode where it was, oh, you don't want to invite me to this game. You didn't try hard enough to get me unaddicted to the pills, etc. So I thought that was really cool. Just like this iced coffee is really good. So 5 stars again to that episode. What do we have next? Atlanta, season 3, episode 5, The Tagger. Sorry, I keep looking at Atlanta and then reading Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Atlanta was 3-5 cancer attack. This episode was another one of those Atlanta episodes where it's basically just a day in the life. And I said this on another one of my Atlanta videos, is season 1 and 2 was like showing us them struggling and progressing genuinely episode after episode. But I feel like season 3 is them showing us that they've pretty much made it. And they don't have to discreetly show us them struggling anymore. They don't have to show us them kind of getting to the next level. Like, they don't have to show that to us. They do things in the episodes that kind of, we could see it happening in real time, where we don't need to be spoon-fed it. Hey, late to the party. Thank you. Thank you so much for hopping on. I just talked about Community. Now I'm on to Atlanta. Cancer attack. So in this episode, the thing that I know, well, actually, no, it wasn't this episode. I think it's the next one or the one before. But basically, the easiest way for us to determine that the gang in Atlanta is doing well is with what they're spending their money on and how they manage their money. And they just do it subtly. So in this episode, like, we understand that Paperboy gets his phone stolen, right? And he says it specifically. He doesn't care about the phone, which I believe is an iPhone, which is over $1,000, right? I don't care about the phone. It's what's on the phone. And that's what a lot of us say when we lose something. We know things are expensive, but it is what's on the phone that's more important. But in season one, if Paperboy lost his phone, that would be devastating because he wouldn't be able to afford a new one, like at that point, just to go out and buy one. Like they did a good job of showing them managing their money in the first season. So there was another scene, and I wouldn't call it a spoiler because everyone's watched the series besides me, and I believe it's in the next episode where again it's really subtle and it's just in conversation. Um, Ern goes to the concierge of his hotel and he's like, "Hey, can you tell me where there's an Apple store?" And he tells him basically, "I got a little nick on my Apple Watch." So that tells me that Ern nicked his watch. Maybe he cracked the glass a little bit, and he's going to buy a new one. In season one, he was living in a storage space because he couldn't even afford a place to live because he had to give all his money to his girlfriend Vanessa and his daughter. Like money was huge to them back then. They had to like save as much as they could, and now he could chip a $500 watch and just go buy a new one. So I like how they're showing us how well they're doing. So now in this season, they could just do these one-offs because basically the whole point of this episode was someone stole his phone, and we find out it was the guy that Darius met a couple of episodes ago that he trusts for some reason because Darius is such a good person. He always sees the good in people, that he met this guy once at a party. And even though he had his back for something that didn't even happen, he still like allowed him to come on the tour with them. So Darius is very trustful. And it turns out that that's the guy who actually stole the phone and then throws it in the trash. I don't know why he would have done that. And I've been thinking about it, and I can't figure it out. I would assume that he likes Darius and he loves hanging out with Paperboy and Ern and being on the tour and with them on the bus and going show to show. And it never really they haven't showed us yet that like he wants some sort of attention or like ridiculous amounts of attention. So I don't know. I would see if they were painting him as a bad person, but we never really got the feeling that he was devious or bad, where he had ill intentions, where he wanted to sabotage anybody. So hopefully they show us or tell us why he stole the phone, or somehow it comes out that he did if someone saw him throwing it out. But I don't know why he would have done that. Like he's already on the tour. He has access to them whenever he wants. So why would he have taken the phone just to throw it out? It doesn't seem like he stole anything on it. He didn't take any information from what we know. I mean, Paperboy says that there are old raps on the phone that he has. Like whenever he has ideas, he writes them down. But they didn't tell us that this guy like stole them to give them to somebody else. But the genius part of this episode was the other kid, where they make you think he stole the phone because he's saying things that Paperboy believed he would only know if he had the phone. But the kid genuinely turns out to be a huge Paperboy fan, and he just knows these things because he's followed him so much over his life. And it was kind of funny that the uncle thought he was 19 and he said he was like 34 or something like that, or 24. That was kind of funny. So all in all, Atlanta just gives us episodes like that where, I mean, they Atlanta, I believe right now is probably, it's not my favorite show. Like I really like it, but I love Community. But I think it might be the best show that I've watched. It's like literally right up there for me with Breaking Bad. Like Breaking Bad was my number one show. And again, not my favorite, just one that I thought was probably the best show. But Atlanta, like season one, two, and three, to me have been perfect. For Breaking Bad, season one was okay. I know it came out during the last writer's strike, and there was only like 7 episodes, but to me, like season 2 to the end were perfect, and season 1 was okay. Atlanta's just blows every episode out of the water. And they do such a good job where they could put out episodes where the characters, the main characters, aren't even in them, and we're invested because they mean something for like us in real life. They always have a commentary to them for us and for what's going on in the series. So I love that. Okay, what's next? After Atlanta, we had the second episode of season 1 of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Tagger. And this one, another really good episode. I probably won't talk too much about this one because there really wasn't a lot going on, but to me, it felt like just a conversation about how some cops are, well, a lot of cops are crooked and how they can get away with anything they want. And if your father's a cop, like you could pretty much do what you want. And that's basically what it was about. The chief lieutenant of Brooklyn, or I think New York City, his son was the one graffitiing all over Brooklyn. And not only that, he was defacing police cars, which that I think that is the comedy of it because in real life, if somebody whose father was a cop or a police chief was a graffiti artist, he would be graffitiing like buildings and shit. I don't think he would be targeting like cop cars if that's what his father did. So that's just what makes it a little bit over the top and funny, which Brooklyn Nine-Nine is basically a parody and a comedy. So, and from what I hear from everyone, a lot of the episodes do talk about, in a funny way, what goes on in precincts. And it doesn't just glorify being a police officer. It kind of also eventually gives a little bit of a social commentary on what goes on behind the scenes. And this is a perfect, lighthearted example of that. Is the kid thought he could get away with everything because who his father was. And then it ties perfectly into the beginnings of the series with Peralta and Holt, where I wouldn't say they don't get along. I just don't think after meeting someone for 3 days, Holt really cares too much either way about Peralta right now. Peralta's the one that wants to be loved pretty much and liked. Or I don't even think he wants to be respected. I just think he wants to be able to do whatever he wants to do because he's like a kid at heart. And the last police chief didn't really care. You know, like from the flashbacks we've got so far, the old chief doesn't seem like he likes Peralta, even though he doesn't say anything. We don't really get anything with him, but he just lets everyone do whatever they want to do. It's like he's getting ready to retire. He doesn't really care. He's just like, oh, these people get the job done. I don't really give a crap what they do. Just do your job. I don't even want to be bothered, you know? So that's why I don't think Peralta cares about being respected. He just wants to be able to do what he wants. But obviously, Holt has a point. Like, you got to do your job, but there's other parts of your job besides just going out. So I like how they're so far putting them together to basically get them on the same page, because at the end of, or in the beginning of the next episode, and this is something we see because they show you what day and time it is, where Peralta is always late to the meetings. And I didn't think it would take this long, but at the end of one episode, he had to sleep in a tent just so he wasn't late, but he wasn't in uniform. So it was like, all right, I was on time, but I wasn't in the correct dress code. But in the next episode, you see it says the precinct time. I think it's like 8:03 in the morning. And the meeting started at 8 in the morning. And at 8:03, Peralta was already there on time, dressed with his tie on. So in only 3 episodes, it looks like Peralta got some of his shit together, but it still doesn't mean he's not gonna be joking around and not taking everything super seriously, because his character doesn't seem like a serious person, obviously. And I feel like even when we get to like the later seasons, I think he'll mature, but I still think he's going to be a goofball. And as of right now, he's not even, Peralta's not even in my, I don't think my top four favorite characters right now. Um, I pretty much like everybody more than him, besides that goofy guy, the one who's like his mini me. I forgot his name. I don't have it up. I should have the cast up, but I don't. But yeah, as of right now, my favorite in Brooklyn Nine-Nine is Captain Holt. He, him as an actor he's just phenomenal. The way each detective has their own sense of comedy, like they're not all the same. And then you have him where you look at him and you feel like, okay, this is the straight man, but he's not. He might be funnier than everyone else so far, the way he just delivers his lines. So beautiful. That's Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And then yesterday was What We Do in the Shadows, Urgent Care. So this episode to me was so good that it made me want to do like a review, and I never do reviews because I'm not really good at them. But I needed to because it sparked some questions in me and the kind assassin where we both have been watching the show. She watched it before me, so we watched everything. And we always felt like, not that they were stuck together, like, oh, we have to live together. You know, they've obviously chose to live together. And someone pointed out that they moved in with Colin Robinson. And since we know that they did not know that every 100 years Colin dies and becomes reborn, that they've been living with him around 100 years, not exactly, right? So I feel like it was just a product of their environment. Like they're some of the vampires, they're in New York, so they live together. Let's see, late to the party. Laszlo really is killing it on his line. Oh my God. Matt Berry, you couldn't have said it better. His line delivery, he says things that aren't even supposed to be funny, and they're hilarious. So I feel like they live together, like I said, out of necessity. They don't hate each other, but you never get the sense that they really genuinely like each other more than just being acquaintances and friends, because they just bicker. Colin Robinson makes fun of everybody. Nandor and Laszlo argue. Everyone knows Naja is hilarious. She could be grumpy just like the guys. Like, it's just they're there, you know. But this episode, it reminded me so much of like families and family in general, because when you're with your family, and I said this on my review, like you love each other, you love your siblings for the most part. Some people don't, but you love your siblings, your mom, your dad, you know, your home environment, right? But when you are at home, it's not always peachy keen, like it's not always perfect. Like I'm the youngest of three brothers. So I have two brothers that are, I think, like 7 and 9 years older than me. And their personalities are totally different, right? So one of them I used to do sports with, things like that. The other one used to take me to theater and plays and things like that. So, you know, we have similarities, but they don't have really anything in common. So they very rarely, like, we don't talk to each other a lot since we don't, you know, live together. We live in three separate states, so we don't talk a lot. If you saw us together, the way we do argue a lot over stupid stuff, you probably wouldn't guess that we were brothers, like if you saw us, but we are, obviously. And when something goes down, like with any family, you might not be talking to your brother or your sister like at a certain point. Maybe something happened and you're like, you know, I'm not going to talk to them for a week, or they did something really bad. But if something happens to them, you put everything aside and you protect them. And that's basically what I saw happen this episode. Late to the Party says, when Naja referred to Nandor as the legendary vampire, yeah, that was the one that got me too at the end. She would never in, I don't know, a million lifetimes say that's Nandor's face. Like, you know, she would never say that. She would not want to give Nandor the satisfaction of hearing that. And she wasn't drunk, and she wasn't emotional. I mean, she was emotional because of what Guillermo did, but I don't think she was saying that just to be a dick. Like, she legitimately considers Nandor a legendary vampire. So there was that. There was her. I know she was forced to take Guillermo to the ER, like that portion she had to do, but she didn't have to protect him. I know she wanted, or she said, it's up to Nandor to kill you, basically, but she could have just been like, I took you here, my part is done. If you get out, you get out. I'll just go back home and say, I did what you told me to do. I took him here, he died. Like, she could have just did that. But she didn't. She fought for him, almost died for him, actually. And then Guillermo saves her life. So I said it in my review, that doesn't make Naja owe him one. I think that was like him owing her one, and now they're pretty much even. And then when they get back, she could have told Nandor the truth, but, you know, she basically was like, this idiot is fine. Like, she didn't say nice things about him, but she didn't rat him out either. And then Laszlo, again, him helping Guillermo, he didn't have to do that. Though I kind of, right at this moment, I think he's doing it because he likes Guillermo, even though he calls him Gizmo, and he's always yelling at him, or, you know, not even giving him backhanded compliments. He never really says anything nice about him. But I do think he's genuinely doing this because he likes him. The other side of the coin is Laszlo's personality could be he's only doing this because he likes to tell people that he's great at something. So it would be amazing for him to be able to take a vampire, turn them back to a human, just so he could tell his wife, look how amazing and smart I am with all of this science. I was able to do that. So late to the party says he's definitely doing it because he likes Guillermo, but he also loves the science. Yep, that's how I feel. So I hope that is what they write, because everything in this episode points to them really loving each other. And then Colin Robinson, he's not, I wouldn't call him a bad person. He's really not. But he's always one-liners. He is always, I wouldn't say he thinks he's better than everybody else, but I don't think he's ever said anything nice about anybody before. And then he's about to die, and Nandor goes out of his way to freaking try to get him fed. Like, that's another thing that I would have never saw coming, because they were never that close. But something horrible happens, and they step up. Like when Colin Robinson turned into a baby after, you know, he dies and comes back to life. It was out of necessity for Laszlo to take care of baby Colin Robinson, but he did it. He could have just easily just left him there, but like, he voluntarily did it. So that kind of rolls into this season. And someone also mentioned that I forgot, when Laszlo was being Jackie Daytona, he was really helpful to the human girls volleyball team too. So it seems like deep down, Laszlo is a loving person to humans, you know, and he didn't kill his neighbor. Like, I think he kind of enjoys hanging out with the next door neighbor. But yeah, so it was Guillermo being helped by everybody pretty much. So we'll see, does Colin Robinson do something to help him, because Naja did and Laszlo did. And then we have Nandor helping Colin Robinson. It's just a love fest right now. And this season is so great, because I felt like season 1 and 2 to me were like peak perfect seasons. 3 and 4 to me were funny, but I don't think they were great seasons. They were good, and that's fine just to be good. But season 5, my hope was that it was just as good as 1 and 2, or just better than 3 and 4. And I think this season right now is the best season, because they're being more creative in our minds, me and the kind assassin, where they're taking vampires and actually putting them in the real world to have to interact with humans, and it's friggin' perfect. Nandor was even willing to. Yeah, that's the other thing. Nandor was willing to die to save Colin. Like, I'm speechless because there's. I'm just speechless. They're basically a family, and I'm sure there are people out there that'll say like this is kind of retconning their personalities, but it's not. A retcon of their personalities would be if all of a sudden they became best friends and in the home environment liked each other. Like that would be a retcon to the personalities. But that's how family dynamics work. It's just when shit goes down is when our true feelings for someone comes out, and we don't always show it. So if next episode happens and they're back to arguing again, that's perfectly fine because that's who they are. Let's see. People in our comment section are loving the season. Makes us so happy to see a series recover from a slump and do so well. Same here. I haven't gotten anybody to that mentioned that they don't like the season. I can't imagine anyone doesn't. It's just so perfect to me. Anyway, my biggest gripe, I think, with the past two seasons, and this is like so small, is from what I remember anyway, and again, I'm getting older, my memory could be shot. Season 1 and 2 and season 5, the writing, the comedic writing is just so creative. And I'm not a critic, so I don't have fancy words to explain what's in my head, but it was just creative writing. You know, the way they deliver their lines. To me, in The Kind Assassin season 3 and 4, it felt like a lot of it was, let's just make Naja say fuck 10 times an episode. And it was just like a lot of, and I like cursing because there's still cursing in this season. And it's not the cursing that's the problem. It's just using that as like a shock to get you to laugh. And it just felt like they were kind of forcing that aspect. Like everything was a fuck just for the sake of them saying it. And it was just like, that's really not that funny. But like this episode, I honestly think this season, I've heard more F-bombs than the previous, but they're at the perfect moment. They work well. They're in the context of the situation. They're not just saying it to say it, if that makes sense. Like Colin Robinson, I think, said it 3 times last episode. Guillermo, I think, the episode before was like, or maybe this episode was like 3 or 4 times. Nandor, he says it. Sometimes I don't even catch when he says it. It's like so subtle. And then I actually think Naja has been saying it less this season. But I don't know. It's hard for me to explain what I mean, but you might get what I mean since you've watched every season. I just felt like the last 2 seasons, they were just like, let's just have them randomly say fuck. I don't know. So I think that's all I really need to say about Shadows. My hope for the season, I'm trying to think, and I'm bad with like speculating or even being creative, but one of my ideas was going to be that by the end of the season, Guillermo does turn into a vampire because they can't turn him back, but somehow he turns into the most powerful vampire. Like that would be kind of funny. That's just like something I think is funny. There's no plot significance. Like I don't know what else would happen. But my other idea would be that I don't know, maybe all the other familiars who were turned into vampires by their masters find out that Guillermo did what he did, and all the familiars try to go after and kill Guillermo, and then Naja, Laszlo, Nandor, and Colin Robinson obviously wouldn't want that to happen, so they would protect him, and then maybe that's how season 5 ends, with him being allowed to stay as a vampire. So I don't see the season ending with Laszlo turning him and then having Nandor turn him back, and then no one bring it up again. Like I don't see that. It feels like the writers found their groove after taking over from Jermaine and Taika. That could be true. I don't remember. I don't know where Jermaine and Taika stopped writing. I don't know if it was like literally after season 2, and then the new writers had 3 and 4, but that could be it. It's kind of hard if you have two people, because Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi, love them or hate them, their style of comedy is their own. And then if you bring in new writers and they're trying to write like that, like you're trying to write like somebody else, it's not going to work. Like you could take characters and write them your way and still not lose the essence of that character. And as you said, it looks like in season 5, they're doing it. And also, as I said, the best, I think one of their best decisions was to bring them out into the open and just show us how, like, because the vampires think they're superior to everyone, but then you take them out into the real world and you really see how inept they are. Because the only way they could fix things is by hypnotizing people. Like, they think they're so smart, and they could be, but like last episode, you're on television and you think because you said, oh, I the last time I saw something was in 1892, and you literally think that anyone would take you seriously, where you had to like backtrack and you got nervous, and all to the point where you wanted to kidnap the news person. Like, you're not that smart. And that's what makes this funny, is that now we see them in like talking with real people and just not knowing how to be social in public. And it's amazing. That was a cool, actually a cool cameo from, what's his name? John Slattery, the guy who played Tony Stark's dad in Avengers. That was pretty cool. I don't know why at first when they first showed his face quickly, I thought it was Ted Danson. But that was pretty neat. I don't know if his cameo has any significance, like if it's a meta cameo or not. It just seems random that if you have a cameo, you have John Slattery. Aside from the vampire hunter group led by Craig Robinson, which were inept, we haven't seen a big vampire hunter villain yet. Maybe another descendant of Van Helsing. That is true. I'm so preoccupied, like enjoying the season and laughing, that I haven't realized that there's no, like you said, no villain. There's no one out there trying to kill them. Because right now, for all we know, the only people who know that they're vampires are the other vampires. So that's a good point. Going back to previous seasons, though, I have to give credit to this plot point. The season where Guillermo, before he figured out he was a Van Helsing and he was accidentally killing vampires, that shit was hilarious. Late to the party said, we thought it was Ted Danson. It's so random. I saw it and I was like, what? But again, I don't know if there's any significance to John Slattery specifically being a cameo in that episode. The kind assassin thought, when they were talking, when they were trying to drain him, she thought that he was also energy vampire, the way he was responding back to Colin Robinson. But then, they didn't go anywhere with it, and it was just, oh, he was a cameo. But that would have been pretty cool if that happened, because again, besides, I forgot her name. The one, shit. Well, you know who I'm talking about, the woman energy vampire. We know there are 2, and then there's the council of energy vampires. But besides that, I don't think we've met another one like out in the real world. But that would have been hilarious if a celebrity was. It would be cool if there were celebrity vampires. I know we have celebrities playing, because we saw the council of vampires, but again, I don't remember if they went by their celebrity name. Because like Paul Rubens was one. Let's see, he totally flipped it on them to the point they threw themselves from the car. That was another perfect F-bomb. Colin Robinson's like, fuck it. He just jumped out of the car. Vanessa Bayer is the other orange vampire. Okay, yeah. They work so well together when they're kind of like, she usually pretend like she's good at, because she needs to get you, like Colin Robinson just needs to bore you, but she gets people like to feel, I think, empathy for her to drain them. So I don't know which is worse. Would I want to be bored to death or like have someone tell me about how much bad stuff has gone on in their life and I'm like feeling sorry for them until I die? Too funny. I could talk about Shadows forever. And as much as I enjoy a good cameo here and there, like I'd love to see Taika and Jermaine Clement come back for like a quick one. I wouldn't be mad if they didn't because it's just so perfect. I like that we saw the Baron one episode. I wouldn't mind seeing the Baron again. If they go to his house, if they need help or something, that would be cool. What else? What else? What else? I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I don't know. How do you, if you're still watching, how do you think things are going to play out with Guillermo? Like right now, we have 4 episodes left, and I don't know either way. I can't think of anything that I would be confident in saying this is what I think is going to happen. I don't love how the Baron and the Sire are just living their best life. It's perfect. Like that was a good way to write characters that you know you can't really use that much. It's kind of like the whole like superhero thing. If something is happening in Manhattan, right? And Daredevil's getting his ass kicked, then why can't Spider-Man just help? You know, superheroes, it's different. There's so many of them. But in this, you'll never be like, oh, why don't they just call the Baron? Like he doesn't want it. He's just chilling. He is doing what he wants to do. We totally think Guillermo will become an incredibly powerful vampire. That's the only thing that I am predicting. And I don't know how it will tie into anything. I just feel like he's going to be really powerful because, one, he's a vampire. Two, he has Van Helsing blood. So I don't know how that's going to affect like his power set. The only thing at the end of last season, I was really big on, I think his name's Derek. Let Derek turn you into a vampire because Nandor never will. But after Naja said that thing about like, not being turned by a legendary vampire, now I'm kind of sad that Guillermo actually did that. Because right now I was like, Nandor was never going to turn him. Like, he never made you confident that he was actually ever going to do it. So I could see why he would do it, but I'm sad that Nandor's not going to be the one. Which will be, totally think Guillermo will become an incredibly powerful vampire, which will be a challenge to either other powerful vampires or a challenge to other vampire hunters. That would be pretty neat because since the dynamic is the vampires, their outward emotion to Guillermo is that, they show that they don't like him. It would be cool if, like you said, they bring more vampire hunters into the show, and maybe one of the main characters, not critically injured, but they get injured like enough that there's a threat that they might be wiped out, and Guillermo's the one who steps in to protect them all. Like that would be dope. But I still feel like I would like them to acknowledge Guillermo as like and that moment show how much love they have for him, but then I would want them to go back to their dynamic where they just bicker at each other all day. I never want them to go where they publicly are affectionate to one another, because that's the one thing I don't think would work. Like they have to be jerks and quirky and stuff like that for it to work for me anyway. But I want it to be like, oh yeah, behind the scenes, we don't have to say it. Like we all love each other, but like we're never gonna show it. That would be pretty dope. Shadows. Usually people can't wait till Friday just because it's Friday and the work week is over, which 100% true. But I honestly, I can't wait to watch these episodes. Like if obviously if this dropped on Netflix, I would have been done in like what are they, 20-minute episodes? I would I would finish it on a Saturday. We also want to see the vampires go on another vacation. We had a blast in Atlantic City. Oh yeah, that was pretty funny. And again, that was to me it was really good because again they put them in the real world. Like putting them in these situations is good, and this to me can't get old. Like it's not something where I feel like, oh, season 5 was the season that they went and like they went out, and then we can't do that again in season 6. Like you can, because I mean, the whole point of this is obviously during the day they have to be inside. So when it becomes nighttime, why would they stay inside? You know, they would want to go out and do stuff. Like I enjoy seeing them try to do normal things that they can't do. Go to a club. Like they had that one episode a couple of seasons ago at the club that Nick Kroll's vampire ran. Like that was funny. Like just send them play. I know there are not a lot of things that are open at night, but you could still do some funny stuff interacting with people because you're in New York, like the city that never sleeps. They have they gone to Manhattan a lot? That I don't think they have all too much. They're typically just in Staten Island. Late to the party. If they go to New Zealand, we could see them interact with characters from the movie. Oh yeah, 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 that's true. Cops. Oh, the werewolves. I wish they would bring the werewolves back again. I like when they. That's something that I wish was kind of like a funny thing every couple of episodes. They just like they're walking somewhere and the werewolves are there and they have to, fight or argue their way out of it because those are always cool interactions. And I remember the last interaction I remember is when they threw the werewolf off the roof. That was the last time I remember them interacting with them. But there's so much they could do, and they're doing it this season. I got 7 minutes left. So basically, the last part, I wanted to just talk about the next movie I'm going to be watching for the first time on September 1st is going to be the original Mission Impossible. All the polls I put up, it got the most votes. So the only Mission Impossibles I've seen are, I think, Fallout and Dead Reckoning Part 1. We also want Beanie to come back as Naja's Brood. We haven't seen her since she became... We were just talking about that too. And again, I don't remember her real name, but I think she wasn't able to come back because she was in some other things. But the kind assassin mentioned yesterday that she wants her to meet up with Guillermo since they both kind of have similar, I mean, not exactly similar, but their turns have been interesting because she didn't have a fast turn either, I don't think. So that would be cool for her and Guillermo to interact. But yeah, that would be so cool. You know who I missed this episode? Dolly. Where was Dolly this episode? Unless I missed her and she was sitting somewhere in a corner. But I love the little doll. I think that's all I got for today. So, yeah. Mission Impossible, September 1st, and then August 15th. Today's the 12th, 13th. Yeah, like Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm going to put up, what was the one I watched last month? God. Oh, The Mummy. That'll be up on YouTube. We want a joke that Beanie has been around the whole time but was just invisible and everyone ignored her. That would actually be really funny. If they do some kind of like flashback, cutback to like scenes that happened and you could see her there, but no one, like you said, no one realizes she's there. That would be funny. Oh boy. All right. Well, I definitely have to get going, start my day. Late to the party. I really appreciate you taking time to hop on. I know Saturday I get most of my community people on Thursdays, and we have a good live stream, but I wasn't able to do it. And I really didn't expect many people to hop on a Saturday morning, but I did want to do this. So it's posted, and if people want to check it out later tonight or tomorrow, they could comment on what I discussed. But late to the party, I know you guys have so many videos to do and so much going on. I honestly am very happy that you took the time to watch. Means a lot to me and the Kind Assassin, so I want to thank you. But yeah, that's all I have for this week. So looking forward to next week's Community, Atlanta, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and of course what we do in the shadows. I know Community was like, their thing was 6 seasons in a movie. I would absolutely love a What We Do in the Shadows movie based on the TV characters. Like if they finished the series and they capped it off with a movie, I would want that. Okay, we had a late night. It's weird how Saturdays are more dead than the weekdays. Well, as always, I'm always looking forward to your posts and your videos. I really enjoy checking those out. Again, you guys mean a lot to us. And we love your videos. So thank you for hopping on. I'll talk to you all. Maybe I'll bother you in a DM again. And again, thanks for answering the questions that I send you. So a movie based on the characters would be awesome. Hell yeah, it would. But thank you for hopping on a Saturday morning. I will talk to you and everyone hopefully during the week on my other videos. So peace, guys.